Arkansas has defeated the Cincinnati Bearcats 67-73 to win the Hall of Fame Classic Championship. I'm Daniel Henry Price. That's Jacob Price. And we're going to break it down. Jake, this we didn't get to do an episode. We actually tried, just so people know that watch. I don't know how many of them there are. Maybe we got 2 loyal fans. I don't know. But we did make an attempt to do a video after the Kansas State game, but we had technical difficulties and it just didn't work well enough to put out. So maybe we'll bring some stuff up. But man, it's an exciting time to be a Razorback basketball fan, because that was, I mean, I don't know how you wait. The other thing about this is we don't talk about the games at all before we go and record these. So I don't know any of Jake's thoughts. He doesn't know any of my thoughts. We haven't discussed it at all. I thought that game was incredible. It's the first time, and I'll be honest, like it's the first time that I thought we might lose a game down the stretch, but I wasn't panicky. I just thought I was going to see like a really good last 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. That's a hard game to actually analyze or to diagnose, because nobody really played like amazing, but no one played bad either. It was just a dogfight. And like, like last night we talked about the K-State game. The first half of the K-State game was the best basketball that they've played this season. I mean, everybody played well. Everybody took turns. They played good D. They played good offense. There was even scoring, a lot of passing, good assist ratio, not a lot of turnovers. And then, but this game in a different way, like they didn't play as cohesive or as fluid. They didn't shoot as well. But I mean, part of that I think was Cincinnati. They were just aggressive defensively, and just, I mean, they were tough on the boards. Their half court defense was crazy.
Well, that's what I was about to say. You got to give a lot of that to Cincinnati, because that's got to be. So we're 5 games in, 5-0. Gotta love it. You gotta think. I mean, as far as I can tell, and I'm a guy who like actually really, really values defense. That's the best defensive team we've played. That team was better defensively than Kansas State, and they were better than the other 3 teams we played. Garden Webb, Northern Iowa, any of those other teams. That was a real defensive challenge. I mean, that team was tough to score on.
Yeah, and they were very disruptive, and actually that's why I'm impressed that we won that game, because that's a really bad type of team to try to play against when you have the woes that Arkansas does, which is not an amazing shooting team and no real point guard. Like a tough defensive team, it's a nightmare. I mean, and you saw like a lot of our points just came from, oh, well, I guess I'm putting my head down now and just 2-stepping into the lane and throwing it up there. And sometimes they just had to do that. There was just nobody open, and no one can get an advantage, and it would get late in the shot clock, and Note or Likes, or sometimes even Tony, or Devo would just have to put their head down and be like, I'm just gonna have to, and it doesn't result in a lot of efficient offense, but also I don't know what else you're supposed to do exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, at some point that shot clock hits 3 and somebody got to do something with the ball, right?
Yeah, I mean, they just wouldn't let anybody get open. And even when they did get some good passing down low, there was several times where it looked like I was like, that was good defense, but that was better offense. We were patient. We got all the way down there. Somebody got the ball, head faked, got a guy in the air. The help came over, dumped it across to Tony or somebody underneath. And it's like they'd go up, and then their big man would recover or something, and they'd affect the shot, or they'd block the shot. And they made it very difficult. Even when we did get an advantage, they did what we do, which is, you got Tony and those guys down there affecting every shot and never giving up and tapping rebounds. And they were doing the same thing. Like right when you think that you're going to score, they just keep pestering you and won't give up and make a second effort. And the next thing you know, the ball's getting tapped around and they're going the other direction.
We had said, even though we didn't release it, that the first half of the Kansas State game was the best half of basketball that Arkansas played. So that was the best first half. This was the grittiest second half of basketball that Arkansas has played, maybe the best second half of basketball Arkansas has played. Arkansas 20 was losing 30 to 26 at halftime. They scored 26 points in the first half. We outscored them 37 to 47 in the second half. So we outscored them by 10. But that also means we scored 26 points in the first half, 47 in the second half. So that's 21 more points in a half where you only scored 26 points. And that was a lot of those points are just there. I mean, those are hard points. I mean, like it wasn't like all of a sudden we lit it up from three. I know we went 0 for 10 in the first half from 3-point line, and we did hit some threes the second half, but it wasn't not that it wasn't like all of a sudden someone got hot and went off. What really happened is Tony just worked harder than everybody. And Jalen Williams is just a stud, and he's just so smart. I think, you were saying like nobody played phenomenal. I think I would argue that Tony played pretty phenomenal. That was a gutsy phenomenal. I think he's. I mean, we do this at the end, but I mean, Tony's got to be player of the game. I mean, he had 19 points. The offensive rebounding was just ridiculous.
I mean, we're doing this literally. The game ended 10 minutes ago, but so we haven't got a chance to really look at the stats a lot. But how many rebounds did he end up with? Because
Tony had 9 rebounds, but 6 of them were offensive rebounds.
And it seemed like a lot more, and I think that's because he was tapping the ball around a lot down there too.
Well, Jalen Williams had 11 rebounds. Tony had 9, but Tony had 6 offensive rebounds, and those are a lot of those points like that. When you talk about us outscoring them by 10 in the second half, you needed all 6 of those offensive rebounds, and they weren't easy rebounds. I mean, there was that one play where he goes up between 2 7-foot guys and just wants it more.
Yeah, there at the end, I think it was the play of the entire game, because exactly what I've been saying is both teams have been playing really scrappy defense, and Tony had, he had a couple of, I think he took them by surprise in the first half with his energy, and he came in there, flew in there, ripped down a few boards and had some putbacks, but then they were ready for it. And you could tell like they were playing him so much tougher the second half, and he did have several times where he got a rebound or they got a pass down to him, and those guys just bodied him up and made it really tough, and he missed it by a hair. But then I'm not sure how much time exactly was left, but it was when it was like a 1-point game there at the end in the last 2 minutes where he got a rebound and he was deep. I mean, they had him, he caught one of those ones where he caught it and then he landed and he was almost out of bounds underneath with the backboards behind his head. And he just was not going to be denied. And he went into 2 of those guys, did the one dribble push out and got it to go. And I mean, I thought he was too deep. I was like, there's no way he can force those guys that far in. And I thought that was the play of the game. And it was just his will over theirs at the end there.
Oh, the end. Well, this is what was great about this win, and why you should be like really excited about this team, because there was 3 plays down the stretch that are just the plays that you make that win you basketball games. It was that one where Tony just gets the ball between 2 7-foot guys and then creates his own space and goes up and just muscles it in. You had Note just picking a guard that has kind of been eating our lunch for during the last 10 minutes of the game, picks his pocket, not just picks his pocket, but then at a guy who is faster than him, but he just gives him the shoulder, gets on the floor first and gets that thing out. And that results in Tony scoring. That's a great play by Note. And then Jalen Williams just being willing to draw a charge at the end of that game when the game's on the line. It's such a headsy play. I mean, if you're someone who plays basketball, to have the thought process of this guy's coming down here, he's going to try to get this layup quick, and then they're going to score fast, and I'm just going to slide into it and take this charge. And I think that was his 3rd drawn charge of the game. How many charges does he have on the season?
Yeah, that was at least his 3rd just on that night, because he had 2 right away in the first half. Yeah, there was one other possession that I actually thought was pivotal too, and demonstrated the same things. But before I get to that Note play that you're talking about, that was even better than it looked, because he got his hand on the ball, and then that point guard, it was one of those things where if Note had not played as aggressive as he possibly could to go after that loose ball, if he'd even popped it out and been like, oh, I can get to it standing up, and just try, with 85% effort. That point guard was playing, that guy's not like most point guards. That guy was playing with 110% effort, and he almost got that ball back. If Note hadn't, I mean, he put his arm into him, and then they were still shoulder to shoulder, and he had to screen that guy off with his body by diving into him. I mean, that was a better steal than it even looked like it was. You know what I mean? But then the other possession was there at the end when we got, and I think Devo was involved in this one too, but we got 3 offensive rebounds in a row to just extend
Devo went up there and tipped the ball to himself, but just like in a bunch with a bunch of dudes way taller than him.
And that burned, that whole process burned like 45 seconds off the clock, because we had a whole possession, and then I can't remember who shot it, and then I think Tony maybe tipped it to Williams, and then he got it and passed it back out. We burned another little bit of time, and then Likes just went in there and dribbled and shot. Then I thought that shot was actually going to go in. It was a pretty decent shot. And then somehow Devo got the rebound again. And then I think that's when they had to start fouling, right? That was when it brought it under 21 seconds.
Well, and then this is why you have this huge team effort of a win, because then what do? They start, apparently Chris Likes is a dude you want at the free throw line down the stretch of games, because he's just not missing.
His percentage is good, but he's not like a 90% free throw shooter. He's like 79 or something like that.
He's just like 100% the last 2 games. When the game's on the line, he's like, I'll just make 14 to 14 or whatever he is at the last 3 minutes of a game.
And that is good to know, because I mean, shooting free throws in the clutch is a talent that not everybody has. Even some decent 3-point shooters get way worse under pressure, and some guys, like, he appears that it doesn't bother him, or he actually thrives on it. And the fact that he's also the hardest guy to steal the ball from, I mean, that's going to be handy going down the stretch in a lot of games.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that what's I'm starting to realize, this could change as the season goes along, but I don't think this team has a star. I mean, Note is sort of your flashiest scorer, and probably the guy that has the biggest potential to just go off for, if anyone's going to score 40 points in a game this year, it's going to be him. But we don't have a go-to guy necessarily. We don't have a dude that every other team is saying this is the guy that you have to shut down if you want to win. This really is a group of, they got 7-8 guys, and I mean, if you look at the box score, and it changes night to night, but you got guys with 19 and 13 and 15 and then 8 and 8 and 5, and they win in a way I think that's hard to game plan for, which is great.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking coming into this. I'm like, I don't even know what to talk about, because that's a weird team. You know what I mean? It's like that was a particularly weird game, because both teams basically it came down to a lot of just tough individual, and it'd be like 2 plays, Note would do it, and then you'd have, then their guy would do it, and the momentum would shift, and then it'd feel like your guy gets cold, and then Likes would have a good play or two, and then Tony would have a good play or two, but then you get a 5-point lead, and then things would reverse, and it felt like the energy was going their way. And both teams, you could tell they'd make an offensive play, and then it was like, oh great, now look out, because that would amp their defense. And it was literally just little tiny shifts back and forth in 2-minute increments, who had the energy advantage at the particular time.
Yeah, and I think that Musselman, it does seem like he's kind of settled in on his offense, on his starting 5, and I think I like it. I like Connor. I think the starting Connor and just seeing how it goes every game is a good strategy. You might take him out and not play him a whole bunch, just depending on how the game goes. But I like that strategy of like, we're going to start with him, and we're just going to see how it goes. And if it's going great, then cool. And if it seems like it's not going great, we can change it up. But as opposed to trying to guess by the scouting, or just like, oh, I've looked at this team, I don't think he'll do well. I like the idea of let's just roll him out there as the starting center with Jalen Williams, with Tony. We're just going to start big but athletic, with the exception of Connor, Devo, and JD. I like that that mentality. If that's what he's going to do going forward, and who knows if he's going to keep doing that. But I like that if he is going to do that. Just saying, we're going to start with Connor, see how it goes. That's how we're going to roll for 5 minutes and just feel it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Connor played pretty well when he was in there. He just like he did in the K-State game, he still hasn't been able to figure out how to get those 3-pointers to drop this season yet. I'm sure he'll eventually have a game where he hits 2 or 3 and that'll fire people up. But I mean, he's still, when he's in there, so these last 2 games, he's been managed to score a little bit, play some pretty good defense.
You can tell he's always someone that the opposing defense has to be thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
Because they might just throw it over the top of you to him. Like he's the only guy on the floor that they might just throw it super high, and if you're not paying attention, you're going to get dunked on, or he's going to do that soft tip in thing. And he did have a huge mid-range jump shot. It was going back and forth, and to take the lead, he had hit about a 15-foot jump shot. I think that was when Tony went out for a minute, and Connor hit that jump shot, and that was a big shot. It's a clutch shot that we needed those points. And so I thought he was great. I thought Likes it was good. I mean, down the stretch, it seems like he's going to be on the floor at the end of games.
He actually, this game, because we talked about this with the last game, last game I was saying Note actually was looking to pass a little bit more and made some really good that first half was Note's just it was a perfect performance. He was patient and scored, but then also got doubled and passed the ball really well. And this game, but we were saying last game, Likes still just dribbles and dribbles and dribbles, and then either shoots it or passes it. But even when he passes it, it's not to anybody who's open. It's just like resets. But this game, he actually did look to pass a little bit more, and he actually had a few assists. I'd have to go back and look, but it doesn't seem like he has very many assists in any of the other games.
I don't think he had any in the game against Kansas State, and he had 3 tonight.
Yeah, so I mean, that's, like I said, it's still not like what your dream point guard scenario, but you'll take every little incremental benefit.
And for some reason, Jay Williams is still leading the team in assists and led the team in assists this game too. So
yeah, well, he had like 3 in the first minute.
Yeah, I mean, Tony was the player of this game, but Jalen Williams is the player of the tournament for Arkansas. I mean, his performance against Kansas State was like just ridiculously gutsy, and it was amazing. And then I thought him and Tony were 2 big difference makers in this game. I mean, just the charges, leading the team in assists, the 11 rebounds. I mean, I love him and Tony in the game together. I love having a Razorback team, and this has not happened in a while, that is consistently out rebounding the other team.
Yeah, I don't know what the actual differential was this game, but it just felt like we abused. I mean, like if we hadn't, it feels like one of those things where if we don't out rebound them by quite a bit, that they would win, because they actually did shoot a little bit better than us. I think they hit more threes than we did. We just got more opportunities than they did.
Well, their 2 guards were just tough, man.
Yeah,
I mean, they were tough to stay in front of, and then their bigs. I mean, it wasn't like we were bigger than they were. We weren't a taller or bigger team than them. We just played harder inside. We were just more physical. Tony's just one of those guys, I mean, because Tony's not a huge guy, but he's just a dude that has a nose for the ball and is the kind of guy that is just, especially in the offensive end. I mean, it's a weird thing. I mean, Jalen was sort of cleaning up the defensive rebounds. I mean, that's why he had so Jalen had 11 rebounds, 8 defensive, 3 offensive. Tony had 9 rebounds, 6 offensive, 3 defensive. It's a weird stat if you have, if you have a lot of rebounds, 9 rebounds, and you have twice as many offensive as defensive. That means that you are just on offense, just dive into the basket and just out physicaling guys. And, Jalen's in a position on the defensive end that he's going to clean that stuff up. And I think maybe Tony's just content to have him do that. Tony's going to take off and run, and let Jalen go clean that stuff up.
Yeah, I mean, he does remind me of Dennis Rodman, even with his athleticism and the
This
way
Dennis Rodman.
that's that Dennis Rodman.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but he's like Dennis Rodman with better offensive game.
Way more offense.
Yeah. I mean, he had some, not just the putbacks, he had a couple of moves through the lane. That one that got the announcers like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, he had that Euro step through the lane, and that was nice, man. That was just right around you.
And he's got a soft touch. He had a couple that he caught in like fast transition and stuff where it took a pretty soft touch to just kind of kiss him in there. And it's nice. It's not, yeah, easily gonna, I think, end up being one of fan favorites,
Yeah.
him, and it'll be a competition between him and Jalen.
Yeah. I mean, they're just hard not to like, because I mean, when Jalen and Tony contribute by just playing hard. They just that's what they do. I mean, they've brought it up kind of ad nauseum at this point, but but Musselman has said it. He's like, I don't draw up any plays for Tony, but yet he led the team in scoring this game. He's led the team in scoring other games. He's always like, he's the kind of guy that you don't. The fans are always going to love a dude that plays that hard. And that's what Jalen Williams does too. So Tony and Williams, they're just going to play as hard as they possibly can all the time. And I mean, I think that actually maybe is what this team is going to be, because Devo, I think, is playing a position that he hasn't exactly figured out, but you can't say he doesn't play hard. I think he's playing as hard as he can all the time. Even Note, who's has the worst shot selection of maybe anybody I've ever seen other than James Harden, you still can't say he doesn't play hard. That dude plays super hard all the time. Plays hard. Vanover plays hard. He's limited in certain things, but I don't think that Musselman is having to coach effort with this team. I don't think they're ever walking on the floor and lacking effort.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think that they're going to have to. I mean, I was talking to our other brother Caleb earlier today, and was just saying, yeah, it's not an ideal team. I mean, they've got a lot of good players. I think if you threw a really heady point guard onto this team, like some kind of freaking John Stockton guy, you know what I mean? Obviously, then you'd have
or one of those Cincinnati point guards.
Maybe, but I mean, you have enough skilled effort guys that if you just gave them a really, court vision oriented point guard, you'd have a championship, national championship caliber team. But because you don't have that guy, they're going to lose a game or two. I mean, and they may threaten to lose a lot of games coming, like in the conference, when the teams and the competition gets where it's like that every night. Every game may be a coin flip, you know what I mean? But normally you would feel pretty bad going into a season with no real obvious floor general, or maybe our obvious floor general is our post player, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but that's still not exactly what you want, because he's not. You could maybe sometimes have that if he's just like the offensive guy, like Shaq or something like that. But Jalen Williams is a peculiar floor general, because he's not the offensive center or in any particular way. He just wants to set screens and rebound and make good passes. But I was telling Caleb, I think that whatever they have this is what makes you feel good about Arkansas's future, is Musselman's going to get the best out of whatever they can be, this team can be. They're not going to be underperform. You know what I mean? Like, they may not have the personnel, they may have some holes, they may need more shooters. Maybe it'll be one of those seasons. It's like, it's hard to know. Might be 20 win, could be better than that. But whatever it is, it's not going to be because he doesn't squeeze every last drop of effort out of them,
Yeah, and I think that's a testament to his coaching, because that's what he does. I think he does get the best out of a team. His teams are as good as they possibly can be, and I think he's got a lineup of guys that this seems like naturally want to play hard, like Jalen Williams, Tony, Devo, Note, Likes, Vanover, Amude, all those dudes seem like they all are willing to play hard. And I think that's exactly the kind. I don't think Musselman plays guys that don't want to do that. I mean, I think if he has to motivate you to try harder, you probably weren't seeing the floor in the first place. And that's just how I think that's just how he rolls.
Yeah, and I think he recruits a particular type of player too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but he wants guys that are willing to do whatever it is that he asked them to do, and that's great. I mean, and props to Likes. It seems like he's embraced his role. I mean, you're talking about a guy that started, his whole career, was playing at a Power 5 school, started at Miami, was averaging 20 points a game down there, and now he's coming off the bench. But that's what we need him to do. And if he wants to be on, if he wants to be the best player on a okay team, then you can do that. But if he wants to be play a key role on a really good team, then he can embrace the role. And it seems like he has. And he's great in that role.
And I think you could say the same thing about Vanover. Like, I mean, we've talked about this before. I'm not sure if Vanover, for especially that first couple of games where he hardly played, not sure if he would want to stick around if he wasn't going to get any playing time. And I think if he plays what he's doing now, if he gets 15, 20 minutes a game, I think that'll maybe be enough. But there's no doubt that if he wanted to, at his size, he could go play in the Missouri Valley Conference or for some smaller program and be the guy. You know what I mean? He could be a big fish in a small pond.
And just average 25 points a game, playing for Missouri State or something.
Yeah. And I'm sure that would be a lot of fun, and I wouldn't begrudge him if he did it. But if you want to be, like you said, a role player on somebody that actually has maybe a legitimate shot at going to a Sweet 16 or something like that, then this is maybe the better option.
Yeah. And everything I've heard is that I think that he wants to do whatever he needs to do to help the team win, which is great. And right now he's a valuable piece. I mean, you need him, right? We need him in that rotation, and we'll need him a lot more in some games than others. But right now, we got 7-8 guys that we're playing, and he's one of them, and we need him to be one of them.
Yeah. So, yeah. And like I said, I mean, good news is all the things that they need to improve on can be improved on. I mean, they can learn, they can gel better, learn each other's, little nuances of each other's games better, and the passing can get better. I mean, they're probably not going to, grow exactly the kind of point guard that you would dream of this season. It doesn't look like that guy's on this team right now, but they can get a lot closer to that between Likes, Devo. They can both get better. Note can, like I said, they've improved every game with their passing and their gelling. There's still large periods of time where they look a little disorganized, and like you said, you're not sure who's supposed to be taking the shots, and it looks a little disorganized. But each game, it's gotten those times have gotten shorter and shorter, and every game they've improved. So if that keeps going, I mean, they still have room to improve. So that's the good news.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about this is that you're talking about they have some a couple of things to figure out that you certainly can. It's not going to get worse. It's the kind of problem that does get better as you play more games and as the season goes on. And
it could get worse if this is an obvious thing to say.
Oh, someone gets hurt or something like that.
If someone gets hurt, I do think if even though they actually they're pretty deep at bodies that are like Williams and Tony, those other guys aren't quite the same.
I like them. They don't have the same motors.
No, I mean, and some of them actually do have similar motors, but they're actually just not as skilled as Tony.
I mean, I like Amude a lot, but he's not Tony. He's not. They're not the same guy, and he's obviously not Williams. Nobody else no one on that team are those two guys. Like Williams is this passing. I mean, anyone else drawing 3 charges a game and leading the team in a like that. Like Williams is a unique dude, and Tony has something that I don't even know if you can teach it with that sort of nose for the ball stuff. That's just sort of something that you either got or you don't.
And then his finesse on the offensive end, like that's not going to be as easily replaced with one of those other guys. So I think those two guys need to stay pretty healthy. If one of them got hurt for a prolonged period of time, I think those other guys would, not that they couldn't, but they would struggle to replace what those two do.
Yeah.
And obviously it goes without saying, I mean, if Note went down, that would be a pretty tough blow.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the same. I mean, every team's like that. I mean, you could probably name 3 guys on any good team that you're like, really be a bummer if we lost one of these 3 guys. We really need them.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, only Kentucky and Duke have freshmen that could just step into those roles or something like that, you know.
But the nice thing is that this is your 5th game of the season. You're still trying to figure some of that stuff out. You obviously don't have point guard completely figured out. And that is such an easy game to lose. I mean, that game is, it might sound like a weird thing to say, but that game is so easy to lose. It's just taking a play off. It's just not going all, it's playing 90% instead of 100% on one possession down the stretch. It's so easy to lose that game. And they didn't. So that really, really bodes well that you can pull something like that out, on your 5th game of the season, still trying to figure out how you're going to run your half court offense. Easy game to lose, tough game to win. And they decided they took the tough road and they won it.
Yeah. And we're 5-0, which is, and like maybe normally, 10 years ago when every team played nothing but cupcakes for the first, 7 games of the season, that wouldn't seem that rare, but I actually think that's a good 5-0. Like I think
it is. I think
3 games that we, could have lost and were to pretty good teams. I feel like if you can get into the season, with, definitely undefeated, like it's different this particular start because we've just scheduled some tough teams in these beginnings.
Yeah, you're 5-0 and you've played a lot of your first 5 games. A lot of teams haven't played a Power 5 opponent yet, and Arkansas has played 2 of them, in Kansas State and Cincinnati, and then a Northern Iowa team that looked like a team that might be around in March. That looked like a team that might win their conference or get an at-large bid or something, and not going to be surprised at all if you end up seeing that Northern Iowa has lost 1 game in their conference and are a 14 seed in the NCAA tournament. That's not going to surprise me. And so I agree. I think their last 3 games have been real good wins. The announcers were saying all throughout that game that they thought Cincinnati is a top 25 team. That looks like a top 25 team to me. I agree. That looks like they were 5-0 going into that game. That looks like a team that, I'd be shocked if that team's not in the tournament in March.
Yeah. And Cincinnati's perennially good.
They're good.
They're always good. They're one of those teams for some reason. I always tend to, when I look down there and just see the, whatever, the 9-11 matchup, I always go with Cincinnati, because it seems like they're always tough. I was nervous. We said this in the podcast we didn't release, but I was nervous about that 13th ranking because from what I'd seen in the first 3 games, I was like, I don't know about 13, but Musselman always finds a way. Finds a way to justify that ranking because they, like I said, it's a weirder team this year, but they're going to get it done.
Yeah,
so
love it. Well, dude, that's exciting. Get your first trophy of the year in November. So I'll take it. Take that thing over to Bud Walton and stick it in the trophy case. It's good times. All right. Well, we'll be back. I believe we play on Sunday afternoon, and so we'll see you guys after that game. But good win. I'm excited. It was it's fun to do a podcast when you're winning.
Yeah, and it's so fun to have early games that are actually meaningful and exciting. I love that. So it's been a lot of fun.
All right, man. Well, we'll see you on Sunday then.
All right. See ya.